This video, you'll learn how to solve two-step equations. You'll learn how to solve for the variable given, and then once you have that variable, you'll learn how to plug it back into the equation and check your answer and make sure that it is correct. So we'll start off with the first example right here. It says 5n plus 5 equals 40. And so what we would do here so we're trying to find n. So whatever n equals, we're trying to find that. So in order to do that, we have to isolate n. And in order to isolate n, we have to subtract 5 from both sides. So subtract 5 from 5, so that cancels out, leaving you with 5n on the left side. And then subtract 40 minus 5 as well, and that leaves you with 35 on the right side. Now, the final step in order to isolate n is we can't add, we can't subtract, so we have to divide both sides by 5. 5 divided by 5 cancels out, leaving you with n on the left side. And then 35 divided by 5 leaves you with 7. Therefore, n equals 7. Now we have to double check our work to make sure that n does in fact equal 7. And this is very simple. All we have to do is plug in 7 for n. As we can see, we'll do it like this. So 5 times 7 plus 5 equals 40. And now we will simply just compute this equation out. 5 times 7 is 35 plus 5. And then it says that 35 plus 5 equals 40. There we go. 35 plus 5 on the left equals 40. And then on the right, we're left with equals 40. So now we know for a fact that indeed n does equal 7, because when we plug it back into the equation here, we see that we're left with 40 equals 40. So we are good to go with that one. All right. Now, this second example, as we can see here, we're going to have to do a little bit of distribution, but that shouldn't be too hard. So all we have to do is distribute the 4 to the g here, distribute the 4 to the negative 1 here, and then we have 4 times g is simply 4g. 4 times negative 1 is negative 4. And on the right side, we're left with 24. Now this equation looks very similar to the first one. So now we know what to do here. It's very easy. All we have to do is isolate g. So in order to do that, we have to add 4 to both sides. If we add 4 to here, they cancel out, leaving you with 4g on the left side. And then if we add 4 to the right side, 24 plus 4, it leaves you with 28. We can't add, we can't subtract. So what we have to do here in order to isolate g is divide by 4. Now when we divide by 4 on the left side, we're left with just g. And when we divide by 4 on the right side, it's 28 over 4, and we are left with 7. Now, like I said before, we have to double check our work to make sure that g does in fact equal 7. So simply what we would do here is we can plug it into the equation. It doesn't really matter which equation you plug it into, you'll still get the same answer, but I would suggest that we plug it into this one right here, only because it's going to be easier in the end for us. So what we'll do here is we'll do 4, we'll plug in 7 for g, like that, minus 4 equals 24. So we see that 4 times 7 equals what? 28. 28 minus 4 on the left side, and on the right side we have 24. 28 minus 4 is 24. On the right side we have 24. And as we can see, 24 does in fact equal 24. Therefore, g does in fact equal 7. So now we can move on to the last and final equation. The last equation gives us y over 6 minus 3 equals negative 11. Now, what we have to do here in order for us to compute this equation, I know it looks a little bit confusing because we have y being divided by 6, but this should be no problem. Simply what we would have to do is we have to multiply both sides by 6 in order to get y by itself. So we have to multiply this side by 6. The 6's cancel out. Multiply this side by 6. The left side leaves us with y minus 3. y minus 3. The right side, negative 11 times 6 equals negative 66. Okay? Now, we have to, this equation looks fairly simple now, just like the other ones. All we have right here is y minus 3 equals negative 66. So all we have to do is add 3 to both sides. Once we add 3 to both sides, negative 3 plus 3 is 0, so those cancel out. We're left with y on the left side. Y equals negative 6 plus 3. Negative 6 plus 3 is negative 63. Okay? Perfect. All right. And now, we need to double check that in fact, y does equal negative 63. So we'll compute that out right away. Let me see. Y, yeah. So we'll have to just simply plug this back in. Oh, actually, I'm so sorry. I made a mistake. I made a mistake here. I made a mistake. I missed one of the steps. All right. So we'll have to rewrite this out. Sorry about that. Y, let me see. Over 6 minus 3 equals negative 11. Perfect. So I actually messed up one of the steps. So what we actually have to do is before we isolate y by itself, we need to add over 3. So disregard what I said in the beginning because that was my fault. I messed up a step. So we have to actually add 3 to both sides here first. So those cancel out. We have to add 3 on this side. Add 3. Negative 11 plus 3 is negative 8. So we're left with y over 6. There you go. Equals negative 8. I'm trying my best here with the mouse. Perfect. Negative 8. Now, what we will simply do is we will multiply both sides by 6. So we'll have to multiply the left side by 6, leaving you with simply just y. Multiply the right side by 6. And then, so on the left side, we simply have y. And then on the right side, we have negative 8 times 6, which is actually negative 48. Okay. So we'll leave that right there. And now we have to double check to make sure that y does in fact equal negative 48. Okay. So we'll plug in negative 48 for y. So we'll do that right here. Negative 48 over 6. All right. And then we have minus 3 equals negative 11. So simply all I'm doing here again is I'm just plugging y, which equals negative 48, back into the original equation just to double check that it does in fact equal negative 48, okay? So negative 48 over 6. So we have a negative being divided by a positive, which is going to give us a negative. So negative 8 minus 3 equals negative 11. All right. And then negative 8 minus 3 is going to be negative 11. So on the left side, we have negative 11. And on the right side, thankfully, we have also negative 11. So now we indeed know that, in fact, y does equal negative 48. Now, as you guys saw earlier, I did mess it up. That's why you have to be very careful with these equations, because if you do one step before the other, you can get a wrong answer. So it is always important to follow the PEMDAS. So always do subtraction before division, okay?